What's up everybody, it's Matt from Peter Glenn, and in this video we're going to show you a few different ways to get the rust off of your edges. Let's check this out. All right, just as much as we don't want rust on our cars, our bikes, anything that's metal, we don't want it on the edges of our snowboard. And the rust on your snowboard edges forms just like rust forms anywhere. And especially when you're gonna store your board for an extended period of time, you wanna get rid of that rust as much as possible, because yes, your board could be bone dry, and even that edge where there is a little bit of rust could be bone dry, but that rust can still spread even without being wet. So whether you're storing it for a week, a month, or over the entire summer, you definitely want to get that cleaned up as quickly as possible. So obviously right off the bat, the easiest way to combat rust is to just keep your board dry. When you get done riding, wipe it down with a rag and make sure that it is as dry as possible. And then from there, we're going to look at a few different tools that you can use to get rust off the edges that it's already formed. And a lot of times, depending on how you store your board, that's going to tell you usually where the rust is. If you store your board standing upright, a lot of times you're going to get a little bit of rust forming easier on the tip of the board that's sitting on the ground, because if there is any moisture on the board, it's going to gravitate towards the ground and then it's going to start forming there. But you basically want to look all the way along your edges, all the way around, and whether it is on the tips or on the sides, or especially towards your contact points, we want to get that cleaned up. Now, rust might not be the traditional color of rust. It might not be that kind of reddish hue. It might just be some darker spots on your board, and that basically means that the rust is forming. So when you need to clean that rust off of your board, there's a few different ways that you can do this. Now, number one is just using the file that you use to sharpen your board. Now, this is not something that we suggest. It's something that you can use if this is all you have, and you basically just go ahead and sharpen your board. And we'll leave a link down in the description below to show you exactly how these files work and how you can do that. But again, running that file along the edge will not only sharpen the board, but it will help clean some of that rust off. Now, the reason we don't suggest this as the first method is because of three things. One, if you have a board where you only have it sharp in certain places and it's detuned in other places, well, you're gonna end up sharpening that spot where the rust is, where you might not want it sharp. Two, if your edge is already sharp and it just has a few of those little darker spots that you just want to clean up, well, now you're going to end up taking edge off of the board on an edge that's already sharp. And three, if you do use your file on a rusty edge, now you're gonna get some rust inside the actual file itself. And then moving on to the diamond stone, which is something that sometimes comes with some of these sharpeners. Sometimes you buy it separately, but the diamond stone is usually there to get the burrs and just to kind of clean up your edges that maybe are a little bit rough. But you can use this again to get the rust off and polish it. You're usually not going to use this on rust that's like that real reddish brownish rust. Usually you're going to use this if it's just slightly darker spots where the rust is starting to form, but you use this kind of similar to the file. You basically use the base as your guide and you just kind of run it along the edge, and you want to keep it flat. Also, if you do it on the side, same thing, but you want to make sure that you pay attention and you're very, very careful so you're not rounding off your edges. And then from there we go to the gummy stone, which is my favorite piece. Now, this gummy stone has definitely been used a lot. Usually they come in a shape somewhat similar to this diamond file, where it's in a little bit of a rectangular block. And these are super, super easy because they can remove the rust very, very quickly. As you rub it, it kind of digs in to the gummy stone itself, and a lot of times you can actually clean the bottom of the edge and you can clean the side of the edge at the same time, although you're probably going to get a little bit of pressure on the bottom and then a little bit of pressure on the side to get an effective clean. But you basically take that and you just run it down the edge and you find that spot where it's super, super rusty. It's almost like you're using a scouring pad, because that's kind of what it is. It's like a little sanding / scouring pad, and you just give it a little rub on there, and you can concentrate it on one little area and just rub that thing until it's nice and clean. Now, with the gummy stone being super effective to clean those edges, not everybody can get one of these right away. They might not have them at your local shop. You might not be able to order one because you're going on a trip tomorrow. So the other thing that you can use that works pretty well is steel wool. And this is something that you can get at any grocery store, or me, I just go to the dollar store. This is one of those items where you don't need to get a super high quality steel wool or anything. So again, go to the dollar store, spend $1, or I think it's $1.25 now. But again, same thing as the gummy stone. We're gonna go ahead and put that on the edge and just polish it up. Now, the one thing about this is to be careful. You might want to wear a glove or make sure that you've got this bunched up really, really well, because you don't want to push your fingers into and through the steel wool while you're cleaning, because then you'll end up getting it on the edge. And if your edge is sharp, it could cut you a little bit. Also, if you've got little burrs, you can get those stuck in your thumb or in your finger, and you do not want a metal sliver. Definitely not a pleasant thing. But again, take that steel wool and just rub it along the edge and clean up that rust and just kind of scrub it. And you might have to re-grip it a few times, but a nice, easy, effective way to clean that rust off of your edges without having to have a gummy stone on you right away. You're gonna burn through these pretty quick. So I do suggest getting yourself a gummy stone in the long run, because it is going to last longer. So as you can see, keeping the rust off of your edges, it's not really a hard thing to do, but it's definitely a very, very important thing to do to prolong the life of your board and its edges. Obviously, your first line of defense is just to wipe the board down. When you get done riding, get the moisture off of your edges. And then when you do store it in a dry place. Whether you just got done riding and wiped it down, or whether you just clean the rust off of the edges, definitely make sure that you do store it in a cool, dry place. And then obviously from there, if you do have rust on your board, you can use your file, you can use that diamond stone. But again, usually use those on edges that are maybe just starting to form rust, not on those traditional rust colored edges. If you do see that, try to get yourself a gummy stone, or if you're really in a pinch, head on over to the dollar store or the grocery store, grab yourself some steel wool and make sure to clean that thing up. And then you can use the file and or the diamond stone afterwards. But if you got any questions about anything that we talked about in the video, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We want to make sure we can get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we want to make sure that you can maintain it and it's going to last you as long as possible. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and definitely get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. And head on over to peterglenn.com, grab yourself a board, grab yourself some tuning gear, and make sure that board is ready to ride, because any day of riding is a good day of riding.